3 extinct animals that scientists are trying to bring back to life. Number 1, the mammoth. Mammoth carcasses revealed frozen and preserved, giving scientists access to well-preserved DNA. The last isolated population of mammoths lived on Vrong Island in the Arctic Ocean 4,000 years ago, but scientists are not certain that man was responsible for their extinction. Number 2, moas. The moas were giant flightless birds from New Zealand, reaching 4 meters in height and weighing over 250 kilograms. They became extinct as a result of overhunting by the Maoris around 1400. Before discovering number 3, don't forget to like the video. Number 3, the dodo. The dodo is perhaps the most famous extinct animal. It evolved without a natural predator, but when humans arrived on its native island of Mauritius, they took the opportunity to hunt it for food. In 2007, a well-preserved skeleton offered hope of recovering precious DNA samples. So tell me, do you think it would be a good thing to bring these species back to life? Or are you afraid? 3 best-paid professions in the world. Number 3, edge engineers, working in fields as diverse as aerospace, energy, and information technology. These technological visionaries are shaping our future. Their specialized skills and expertise in constantly evolving fields can bring them a respectable sum of around $80,000 a year. Number 2, medical specialists, such as cardiac surgeons, dermatologists, and anesthetists. These masters of medicine, thanks to their high level of specialization and their responsibility to our health, earn around $190,000 a year. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, the world's highest paid profession, senior executives. The centerpiece of the industry, they head large companies or financial institutions and enjoy the highest salaries. Their experience, advanced management, and strategic decision-making can bring them an impressive average of $300,000 a year. So, do you know some jobs that can earn you even more than that? No, certainly not. The 3 most dangerous criminal mafias in the world. The last one shows no mercy. Number 3, the Macro Mafia in the Netherlands. Imagine a Moroccan criminal organization that has extended its influence to the streets of the Netherlands. The Macro Mafia is known for orchestrating operations on an international scale. Their audacity is exemplified by the assassination of renowned Dutch journalist Peter de Vries in 2021, and even the Dutch president has received death threats. Number 2, Italy's Calabrian 'Ndrangheta, the powerful and feared mafia from the Calabria region of Italy. Their criminal empire spans a multitude of illegal activities, including drug trafficking, corruption, money laundering, and murder. But their extortion methods are just as intriguing. They target local businesses and merchants, demanding regular payments in exchange for so-called protections or services to ensure their safety. Before I give you number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. Number 1, the Russian Mafia. The dark world of the Russian Mafia, an umbrella term encompassing several criminal organizations from Russia and the former Soviet Union, whose illicit activities range from drug trafficking and prostitution to human trafficking, corruption, and murder. But the event that most captured the world's attention was undoubtedly the assassination of Alexander Litvinenko in London in 2006. This former Russian FSB agent was poisoned with polonium-210. So if you can, give me the name of an organization even more feared than these. 3 cities where no one can live. The last one would be home to nothing but ghosts. Number 3, the island of Hashima in Japan. This island city was the cornerstone of energy production in its heyday. However, since coal production ceased, the company that owned the mine has also closed its doors. All the island's inhabitants moved away as there were no more job opportunities, leaving the island completely empty. Number 2, Chinese ghost towns. This is not a single city, but a whole. Due to China's economic growth, some 50 megacities are under construction and waiting to be populated. However, it's hard to convince people to move to these cities. This means that around 70 million apartments have no tenants. Before I give you number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. Number 1, Barocha, Cyprus. This town on the Cypriot coast was once dubbed a millionaire's playground, with celebrities from all over the world flocking here. However, in 1970, civil war broke out, and the town had to be evacuated. Today, the town is peaceful, but tensions remain high, so much so that most residents have chosen not to return. And you, where would you like to take your ex for a nice vacation?
Never read this book. This is one of the 5 most powerful books in the world. In fact, they don't even want prisoners reading it. If you start to read it, I am warning you now that you will not only expand your knowledge on every herb and start to heal the people around you. You will be able to maximize your testosterone and no longer be dependent on hospitals and save thousands a year because it teaches people about the most powerful medicinal herbs only professional herbalists know of. What is the book called, you may ask? It is called Alkaline Vegan Healing Guide. It is extremely difficult to find, but you can still find it on a few websites. One of those being awakensubs.com. You didn't hear this from me though, because the government wants you to stay in a lower frequency. If you start today, in 2 days you'll feel stronger. In 2 weeks, you'll notice changes. In 1 month, your family and friends will notice. In 3 to 4 months, everyone will notice. In 5 to 6 months, everyone will ask how. Now imagine 1 year from today.
How did the suicide of 300 people saved an entire country? To conquer Athens, the Persian Xerxes must pass through the narrow passage of Thermopylae. The Greeks fight to defend the entrance of the passage, but they were only 7,000 against 50,000 Persians. The battle was fierce and deadly. The Persians shot arrows from a distance of 100 meters, but the Greeks had bronze shields and resisted. According to Herodotus, Xerxes then sent the Immortals, an elite corps of 10,000 soldiers to attack. But even they could not break through the Greek defenses. On the second day, Xerxes' army managed to surround the Greeks. After a tough fight, the Greeks had to retreat. However, the Spartans led by Leonidas and his 300 men refused to give up. The Spartans never retreated. They would die to delay the Persians. Xerxes sent 10,000 men against them. The Spartans fought bravely with their spears until they were all broken, then with their bronze swords. 2 of Xerxes' brothers died, as well as many Persians. The 300 Spartans were killed to the last man. Leonidas also fell killed by an arrow. The Persians managed to pass, but thanks to the sacrifice of the Spartans, the Greeks had time to prepare their army, and the Persians were eventually repelled. A stone lion was erected at Thermopylae to commemorate the bravery of Leonidas. The Mayans had the most improbable and powerful weapon of all the ancient world. Indeed, the concept of team sports was invented by the Mayans over 3,000 years ago. Way before Ronaldo, they played what is now considered as the grandfather of all ball games. This game was used as a weapon of war for Mesoamerican civilizations. Mayans kings used it as a substitute for warfare or to appease diplomatic crises by playing ball. We only partially know the rules of this game. In each team, players had to cross the field to touch the enemy wall without dropping the ball, using only their hips and butt to pass it, while feet and hands were forbidden. On some special fields, there were rings like this. If a player managed to pass the ball through the ring of the enemy camp, the victory was instantaneous. These matches gathered thousands of spectators. But beyond entertainment, this game also held a sacred place in religion. Winners were worshipped as blessings from the gods, and their exploits were immortalized on stelae and murals. However, some of the losers were sacrificed to ensure the prosperity of the civilization. 3 biggest secrets that will never be revealed. The last one will surprise you. Number 3, the recipe for Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is one of the most popular drinks in history, and its recipe is known to only 2 people at a time. The recipe is so secret that even Coca-Cola employees don't know the exact details. This secret is carefully guarded in a safe at the World of Coca-Cola. Number 2, the tomb of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was one of the most influential and successful rulers of his time. He returned to his native Mongolia towards the end of his life. Anyone who attended his funeral was executed to keep the location of his tomb secret. No human being alive today knows where he is buried. And finally, number 1, Area 51, a classified military base in Nevada. Area 51 is so secret that the CIA has only acknowledged its existence since 2013. Inside, there is said to be a highly classified file, accessible only to the President and the General of the Army, and containing all the CIA's most important informations. It's the best kept place in the United States. 3 most powerful families in the world. I'm pretty sure you don't know the last one, and yet it will shock you. Number 3, and surely the best known, the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family is a German Jewish family who made their fortune in banking in the 18th century. The family made their fortune on an international scale, and today controls the world's financial institutions. It is now worth $2,000 billion. Number 2, the Rockefellers, the most powerful family in the United States, with control of major industries, finance, and even politics. Today, they are worth over $3,000 billion. Its founder, John Rockefeller, was for many years the richest man in the world. Number 1, the Windsors. The Windsor family is the royal family of the United Kingdom, controlling most of British territory, exercising total influence over British politics while retaining a ceremonial role and controlling states and palaces in every nation. 2 companies control the world, and you don't know who they are. When we think of the most powerful companies in the world, we often think of Apple, Google, or Amazon. However, these companies are mere youngsters compared to the 2 behemoths that are BlackRock and Vanguard. BlackRock and Vanguard are the 2 most powerful investment funds in the world, with $15,000 billion under management, equivalent to the GDP of the United States. So how do these companies control the world? It's simple. BlackRock and Vanguard own shares in all the world's most powerful companies, including Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft. They're financial monsters, owning everything from pharmaceuticals and banking to transport and media. It's simple. Every time you do something, you make BlackRock and Vanguard richer. Watch Netflix, you make Vanguard richer. Go on Instagram, you make BlackRock richer. Buy an iPhone, you make Vanguard richer. And the most terrifying thing is that when you make Vanguard richer, you also make BlackRock richer, because the 2 companies are each other's biggest shareholders. The 3 most protected people in the world, the number 1 is invisible. Top 3, the Pope. The Pope probably lives in the most heavily armored city in the world, Vatican City near Rome. He also travels in a bulletproof Pope-mobile. Guards accompany him everywhere. They're a top-of-the-range military force made up of former Swiss soldiers of the highest caliber. Top 2, Vladimir Putin, the man who has been shaking Europe for months, the president of Russia. He is under the protection of the Federal Protection Service. This service is made up of agents transferred from the SFB, successor to the Soviet KGB, and other elite Russian intelligence services. It's said that their members always show up with fake hands to conceal their real hands hidden under their long jackets, allowing them to act at the drop of a hat. And finally, in first place, Kim Jong-un. The North Korean leader has astounded everyone with his protection system, but it's justified given his many enemies. Some $20 million are spent every year to protect the leader. He always travels in an armored limousine and heads a supreme guard of 100,000 overtrained soldiers to protect him. You can tell your future by whether you're the oldest or the youngest of your siblings. The average family has 3 siblings, and one study shows that if you're the oldest, you're much more likely to become a boss, someone who's a leader in a business. Older siblings are generally the best at math and science, and they noticed that the people who won Nobel Prizes were often the eldest in the family. But what about the one in the middle? If you're the youngest of your siblings, you're more likely to have a creative or artistic job. You're not going to hesitate to try things out, to do jobs that make you really happy and fulfilled, like drawing, culture, content creation, or singing. Now we come to the masterclass. It's said that the one in the middle is the boss. Generally speaking, if you're born in the middle, you'll find it easier to negotiate, manipulate, and contradict authority. For example, as a middle child, you've got Bill Gates, Martin Luther King, Jaden Smith, so if you're a middle child, get ready to get rich. So, pretty accurate, right? The 3 most secure prisons in the world where it's impossible to escape, the last one is a real myth. Number 3 is Fuchu Prison. This Japanese prison imposes 2 months solitary confinement in retaliation for any escape attempt. All escape attempts are thwarted using motion detectors and other state-of-the-art systems. The threat of solitary confinement discourages inmates from attempting to escape, and their beds are ripped away if they do. Number 2, Black Dolphin. This Russian prison is widely regarded as the most atrocious place in Russia, with some of the country's worst prisoners held here and subjected to inhuman conditions. Inmates are grouped in pairs and must share a tiny cell. Each criminal serves a life sentence at Black Dolphin. Number 1, Alcatraz. This famous ex-prison was located on an island that earned it the nickname Black Rock. The prison was so isolated from the rest of the world that no prisoner ever managed to escape. The prison housed less than 300 criminals. the most dangerous in all of America. 3 most intense pains for us. The last one is unimaginable. Number 3, childbirth. Childbirth is often described as a very painful but also very long experience, sometimes lasting over 6 hours, with pain due to the sudden contractions of the uterine muscles, then by the extension of the perineum as the baby's head passes through. Number 2, the paraponera sting. This Amazonian ant delivers an extremely painful neurotoxic venom through its sting. An intense burning sensation spreads over the affected limb, causing involuntary muscle contractions for several hours. The paraponera bite is considered the most painful in the animal world. Before discovering the number 1, don't forget to like the video. Number 1, complex regional pain syndrome. This syndrome often occurs after injuries such as fractures or benign surgery that damage nerves and cause dysfunction. Attacks can last for months, and there is no cure for this syndrome. Well, to be honest, there's something even worse than that. Can you guess what?
The 3 most dangerous places you should never go swimming. Number 1, Lake Karachay. Located in eastern Russia, Lake Karachay is also the most polluted lake on the planet. The government intentionally polluted it with radioactive waste back in the days when no regulations were enforced. The water in this lake is so contaminated that it could kill you in just 1 hour. Number 3, Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa. Every year, 5,000 people die here. The lake has its own weather system isolated from the rest of the world, and the weather can change from clear and sunny to stormy without any warning. If the weather changes while you're swimming, you might not make it out alive. Number 3, this might be a great place to swim, but it's actually one of the most dangerous places to swim in the world. It's called Baying Lake in the Dominican Republic, and below the surface is volcanic magma, so entering this water can mean immediate death. So now do you know where you'd take your ex for a little swim? Tell me in comments and mention your ex to show her all the love you have for her. Don't forget to subscribe for more useful knowledge. The 3 most powerful dogs in the world. Number 3, the Doberman. This dog is known for its strength and robustness, with its powerful musculature and imposing stature. The Doberman is a true symbol of power. It possesses boundless energy and unfailing determination. Its protective instincts combined with its strength make it a formidable war hero. He's ready to defend his family and territory with impressive vigor. Number 2, the Pit Bull. This dog has often been misunderstood because of its reputation, but let me tell you, the Pit Bull is one of the strongest and toughest dogs around. It possesses incredible strength, a powerful jaw, and unparalleled endurance. Pit Bull have been used in many fields, from protection to search and rescue. Before I give you number 1, only Conor McGregor would have the strength to win against him. Number 1, the Anatolian Shepherd. Originally from Turkey, this dog was bred to protect flocks from predators. With his imposing size and impressive strength, he's ready to face any threat. His protective instinct is unrivaled, making him one of the strongest dogs in the world. In fact, he has the most powerful bite of any dog, with a bite of over 337 kilograms per square centimeter. Now that you've come this far, you know the truth. Conor can't last 1 round against these dogs.
3 tallest buildings in the world. Number 3, the Makkah Royal Clock Tower in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. The Makkah Royal Clock Tower is one of the world's tallest skyscrapers at 601 meters. It is part of the Abraj Al Bait complex, which houses luxury hotels, shops, religious facilities, and an impressive Hajj tower.
Number 2, Shanghai Tower. Located in Shanghai, China, the Shanghai Tower is the world's 2nd tallest skyscraper at 632 meters. This futuristic tower is a symbol of the city's modernity.
It houses offices, hotels, and observation areas, offering panoramic views of the entire city. Before I give you number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. Number 1, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. The Burj Khalifa is one of the world's most emblematic skyscrapers. At an impressive 828 meters, it holds the record for the tallest building ever erected. The Burj Khalifa is a major tourist attraction, offering spectacular views over Dubai from its observatories at different heights. And tell me, do you know who this famous Khalifa is? Try Googling her for more details. Don't forget to subscribe. 3 most powerful armies in the world. Top 3, China. With its large population and fast-growing economy, China has the world's largest army, with 2 million soldiers. The Chinese have invested in modernizing their armed forces, spending over $230 billion on defense. What's more, the Chinese army has more than 250 nuclear bombs, enough to deter aggressors. Number 2. Russia. With more than 850,000 soldiers, Russia has a long military tradition, with a vast arsenal of nuclear weapons and well-trained ground forces. But what's even more astonishing is that the Russian army has the most nuclear bombs in the world, with more than 6,225. Russia has also demonstrated its ability to conduct effective military operations in a variety of conflicts. Its defense budget totals over $140 billion. Before I give you the number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. And finally, number 1, the Ivory Coast. Just kidding, the United States. The United States has the biggest defense budget, with over $690 billion, more than 5 times what Russia spends on its army. The United States also boasts cutting-edge technology, global power projection capabilities, and a multi-dimensional military force. What's more, Uncle Sam's country has over 1.4 million active soldiers and over 5,500 nuclear bombs. So this ranking seems correct, doesn't it? Which army do you think is the most powerful? 3 most difficult languages to learn. Number 3. Arabic. With its complex grammar and difficult pronunciation, Arabic is considered one of the most difficult languages for non-native speakers to learn. Calligraphy is also an obstacle to learning. What's more, there are several regional dialects that can make communication difficult between speakers. Number 2, Mandarin. Its writing system of over 50,000 characters makes learning the language difficult. Mandarin uses Chinese characters for writing, which can be difficult for beginners to memorize. What's more, Mandarin uses 4 different tones to differentiate words, meaning that the same word can have different meanings depending on how it is pronounced. So it takes a lot of practice to learn to speak Mandarin correctly. Number 1, Hungarian. Hungarian is considered one of the most difficult languages to learn due to its complex grammar and unique vocabulary. Unlike Arabic and Mandarin, Hungarian uses a Latin alphabet for writing, but this doesn't make it any easier to learn. Hungarian uses suffixes to express different word forms, which can be very difficult for beginners to understand. Hungarian also has a unique vocabulary and idiomatic expressions that are not used in other languages. So tell me which language you struggled with most in high school, and don't hesitate to subscribe to see more similar videos. 3 heaviest animals in the world. The last one is unimaginable. Number 3, the hippopotamus. Let me tell you, this incredible mammal is simply colossal. True male giants can reach an impressive weight of between 1,500 and 3,200 kilograms. And don't underestimate the females at around 1,400 kilograms. Their mass is simply staggering. Number 2, the African elephant. Prepare to be overwhelmed by this immense pachyderm that reigns supreme on dry land. The males, veritable titans, can weigh between 4,500 and 7,000 kilograms, and lighter females weigh in at around 3,000 kilograms. Before I give you number 1, remember to subscribe and like the video. And finally, the highlight of the show, number 1, the blue whale. This marine wonder holds 2 world records. On the one hand, it's the largest living animal on Earth, often reaching lengths of over 30 m. On the other, it's also the heaviest of all, with adult specimens weighing up to 200 tons. Well, actually, the heaviest animal on Earth, you already know, is your mother.
Crazy history facts you won't learn anywhere else. Part 3. In the 18th century, it was fashionable for wealthy Europeans to have their own personal dwarfs who would perform for their amusement and even be given as gifts, a small price to pay for entertainment. The ancient Chinese practiced a form of foot binding on young girls, which involved breaking their toes and bending their feet to make them smaller and more attractive. In 1866, Liechtenstein sent out an army of 80 men to participate in the Austro-Prussian War. They came back with 81 men, suffering no casualties and having made 1 friend. Maybe the real Austro-Prussian War was the friends we made along the way. The ancient Greeks used to exercise in the nude, and the word gymnasium actually means a place to exercise naked in Greek. In 1325, 2 rival Italian city-states, Bologna and Modena, went to war over a stolen bucket. Crazy history facts you won't learn anywhere else. Part 11. Every single bellboy aboard the Titanic went down with the ship. Not one of them was older than 17. Most were 16 years old. The University of Oxford is older than the Aztec Empire. Germany paid off the last of its World War I reparations in 2010. The Mongols lost to the Japanese in 2 invasions. both times due directly to a typhoon. Photography is almost 200 years old. The world's first permanent photograph was taken in 1827 and was titled View from the Window at Le Gras. The world's oldest known customer complaint dates back to ancient Mesopotamia, around 1750 BCE. A clay tablet was discovered containing a complaint from a copper merchant named Nani, addressed to a merchant named A. Nasser. Nani complained about the poor quality of copper ingots he received and expressed his dissatisfaction with A. Nasser's service.
The Scythians had the most terrifying arrows of all antiquity. These nomadic archers of the Eurasian steppes, whose warriors inspired the Amazon women of Greek myths, were among the most feared warriors of antiquity. Archaeological discoveries have revealed that they used barbed arrows attached to wooden shafts adorned with motifs evoking venomous vipers. The Scythians would dip their arrowheads in a poison known as scythicon, described by ancient Greek sources as a mixture of snake venom, decomposed viper bodies, human blood, and excrement. The ingredients were combined and left to putrefy for several months. The slightest scratch caused by one of these arrows would result in a gruesome death or a slow agony, caused by wounds infected with gangrene and tetanus. The mere fact that the Greeks knew about the ingredients used to create this poison indicates that the Scythians boasted about them loudly, spreading fear in the face of their weapons. Strongest army of the 19th century. Napoleon is the greatest emperor of France, having conquered a large part of Europe before his violent downfall. In the early 19th century, Napoleon Bonaparte ruled France and embarked on incredible wars and conquests. Emperor Napoleon sought to expand his empire and conquer the world. With his army, he first attacked Italy and annexed several provinces. He also conquered Spain. Nothing could stop him. Then, he attacked Egypt. The Battle of the Pyramids was fierce against the Egyptian army led by Murad Bey, consisting of over 10,000 cavalry and 30,000 soldiers. After a tough fight, Napoleon triumphed and reached Cairo. Napoleon then crossed the Alps and fought against the Austrians and their Russian allies. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 was a crushing victory. Napoleon was at the height of his power, being the master of the emperors of Russia and Austria. But those victories were not enough for Napoleon. He now wanted to conquer all of Russia and set off with his army. In 1812, he took Moscow. However, the Russians launched a counter-offensive, and Napoleon made the mistake of attacking in winter. The cold and diseases killed his soldiers, and the Russian army inflicted heavy losses on them. They had to retreat in the snow. In 1815, in Belgium at Waterloo, Napoleon faced the Germans and the British. It was an exceptionally deadly battle, resulting in 9,500 French casualties. It was a terrible defeat. After those two failures, Napoleon's power came to an end, and he had to abdicate.
Crazy facts about historical figures. Momcilo Gavrik was the youngest soldier to serve during World War I. He was only 8 years old. Jewish boxer Salomo Aruch was imprisoned at Auschwitz. He was forced to fight fellow prisoners. The losers were sent to the gas chambers or shot. He survived over 2 years and 200 fights until the camp was liberated. Captain Robert Campbell, a British prisoner of war captured by the Germans in World War I, was freed to see his dying mother, then went back to the prison camp because he gave the Kaiser his word he would return. Salvador Dali once painted a picture of Adolf Hitler in a compromising situation. Leif Erikson is regarded as the first European to land in North America, nearly 500 years before Columbus. Pope Pius II wrote a popular erotic book called The Tale of Two Lovers before assuming office. Karl Joseph Silberbauer, the SS officer who captured Anne Frank and her family, bought her book to see if he was mentioned.
I'm the man who braved the seas and discovered Greenland. I am Eric the Red, a Viking. In 985, Iceland became overpopulated, with not enough exploitable land. With about 30 settler ships, I went in search of a so-called land further west. We braved powerful currents, unleashed storms and colossal waves. Vikings were born to challenge nature's fiercest forces. After months with no land in sight, we arrived at our destination. I named it Greenland, to bring in more settlers, and in honor of its majestic landscapes hidden beneath towering glaciers. But Greenland's beauty did not conceal the inhospitable nature of its lands. We had to deal with extreme weather conditions, harsh winters and ferocious storms. Yet, I managed to transform these hostile lands into a home for the Vikings, founding prosperous colonies and cultivating life itself in these wild territories. I also had to defend my colonies against enemy attacks. I led my men bravely on the battlefields. Sword in hand, we achieved great victories that bolstered our presence and reputation. After a fulfilled life, I died on my land, due to an epidemic in 1010, but my voyage didn't stop there. My son, Leif Erikson, went even further, becoming the first European to set foot on the new continent 500 years before Christopher Columbus. Let me show you the real ruins of San Francisco. So, I have this highly detailed photography where we can navigate and see the colossal damage of the San Francisco's earthquake, dating from April 18, 1906. This giant picture was taken 2 months later. You can see several buildings under reconstruction. This disaster claimed the lives of 3,000 people and left nothing behind, except deserted avenues and a city in ruins.
The fight for freedom is one that transcends lifetimes. I am Tupac Amaru, the leader of the indigenous rebellion in Peru. Our beloved land was suffering under the oppressive rule of the Spanish Empire, enslaving our people with an iron grip. Determined to defy this injustice, I emerged as a beacon of hope for my people. My rebellion began in the Peruvian Andes, where I united the forces of indigenous people. Together, we raised our weapons and ignited a rebellion that echoed through the mountains of Peru. We launched daring attacks against the Spanish garrisons, pushing back the enemy with unwavering fury. We fought, not only for our freedom, but also for the dignity and rights of our indigenous brethren. Our cause was just, and our resistance grew stronger with each passing day. I enacted reforms to abolish forced labor imposed on our people and unjust taxes. I established indigenous governance to empower our people, to restore our pride and dignity. Spain could not tolerate our challenge. They mobilized their forces, utilizing their army to crush us. Finally, the Spanish forces overwhelmed us. The Spanish crown was unbeatable, but our spirit remained unyielding, for we knew that the fight for freedom is one that transcends lifetimes.
I am Zheng He, the greatest admiral in the history. In the 15th century, I have introduced China to most of the world. I led a massive fleet of huge treasure ships. My expeditions were nothing short of extraordinary. 250 boats, some of which are up to 8 times the size of the Santa Maria, Christopher Columbus's ship. I wasn't just exploring. I also aimed to foster diplomacy and develop trade. Our fleet has visited many countries and established diplomatic relations, exchanging goods, ideas, and knowledge with various cultures along the way. These expeditions were a testament to the advanced shipbuilding technology and navigational prowess of the Ming Dynasty. The fleet comprised not only ships, but also an international crew of 30,000 men, representing different ethnicities, making it a symbol of unity and cooperation. We reached as far as the shores of East Africa, a testament to the incredible maritime skills of the Chinese sailors. My 7 expeditions left a lasting impact, opening up new trade routes, facilitating cultural exchanges, and influencing the development of maritime navigation. Sadly, the expeditions came to an end due to shifting political priorities, and much of the documentation about my voyages was burned or destroyed, letting China isolate itself from the world forever.
What do you know about Celtic civilization? The Celtic culture was born around 1000 BC, along the upper Danube River in Central Europe. Rather than being a unified people, the Celts were a mixture of peoples whose linguistic and cultural traits were spread throughout pre-Roman Europe. Many historians believe that they shared belief systems and a common language, some versions of which are still spoken in Western Europe. The Celts did not develop a complete writing system, but their artisanal craftsmanship allowed them to prosper. With the advent of ironworking, a technique originating from the Middle East, around 750 BC, Celtic communities gained an advantage in trade and warfare. The Celtic culture spread across territories that we now know as Germany, France, northern Spain, and even to the British Isles, thriving for centuries before falling into the hands of the Romans.
In the darkest depths of the SCP Foundation lies a creature known as SCP-096. Brace yourself to encounter true horror. This entity measures approximately 2 meters 50. His emaciated body is nothing but tortured skin. If you dare to see a mere glimpse of his face, whether directly or even through a mere image, triggers a cataclysmic transformation. The consequences are dire. SCP-096 launches into a murderous frenzy, ruthlessly hunting down anyone unfortunate enough to have locked eyes with him. The SCP Foundation, dedicated to secure, contain, and protect, goes to great lengths to keep SCP-096 under control. Drastic measures are taken to prevent accidental exposure to its face. Strict containment procedures are enforced. Join this channel and be ready to dive into the dark world of the SCP Foundation, where horror comes to life. SCP-096 is a constant threat, a creature that haunts our worst nightmares. Stay vigilant, you've seen his face now. And never forget, he's there, waiting, ready to be unleashed.
At 17, I was the only survivor of the Flight 58 Lanza. I survived alone in the Amazon rainforest. At the age of 17, I boarded a plane with my mother to join my father in Peru. While flying over the rainforest, we encountered a storm, our plane was hit, and we began a descent of 3,200 meters. I am the sole survivor among the 92 passengers on the plane. Injured in the eye and right arm, my collarbone is also broken. My first goal for survival is to find water. I start my search and quickly come across a river that I decide to follow upstream. I can quench my thirst, and the river allows me to move easily through the jungle. I can't sleep as insects constantly bite my wound. I need to take care of it quickly. By continuing along the river, I come across a canoe with a shelter. Still no one in sight, but I find some gasoline. If I want to save my arm, I need to take action. I pour the gasoline on it, and 35 maggots emerge from my arm. Exhausted, I decide to stay in the shelter, and the next day, loggers find me and transport me to the hospital. I am saved.
Let me introduce you the unknown African kingdom of Ouagadougou. By the end of antiquity, as Rome declined, the wealthy and powerful empire of Ouagadougou emerged on the other side of the Mediterranean in the 5th century. This prosperous kingdom, founded by the Soninka people in present-day Mali and Mauritania, had a flourishing capital city with impressive architecture and a bustling market. Located on the main routes of the trans-Saharan trade, the empire engaged in commerce of ivory, salt, cola nuts, fabrics, and most importantly, gold, its primary wealth. West African gold was highly valuable in the Arab world. Ouagadougou was its main seller. The empire was governed by a king, or Ghana, who headed a complex system of government and administration. To ensure the maintenance of records for the empire's administration and government, a written language called Manda was invented. At its peak around the year 1000, the Ouagadougou Empire had a standing army of 200,000 men equipped with iron weapons. It eventually became absorbed by the Mali Empire.
5 unlikely facts throughout history. Number 1. To brush their teeth, the Romans used urine. The ammonia present in urine allowed them to clean their teeth and remove stains from them. Number 2. Among the Vikings, to determine if a wounded soldier would survive, they would make them eat garlic, and if the wound smelled of garlic, it meant that it was too deep and the soldier could not be saved. Number 3. God Save the King, the British anthem, was written in honor of the French King Louis XIV's anal fistula, wishing him a speedy recovery. Number 4. During World War II, the Battle of St. Louis Bridge pitted 9 French soldiers in a bunker against over 3,000 Italians. The French successfully repelled the Italians, resulting in approximately 200 deaths and 600 injuries among the Italian forces, while the French only had 2 minor injuries. Number 5. The color blue appeared in the Middle Ages. Before that, it was described as shades of other colors. In Homer's Odyssey, for example, the sea is described as being purple. You can join our channel for more content.
I'm the unbeaten pirate queen Chingsha. I united the biggest fleet in history with my pirate code. Following the death of my husband Chung Wand, I succeeded him and commanded over 1,800 pirate ships and an estimated 80,000 men. In comparison, the famed Blackbeard commanded 4 ships and 300 pirates. These pirates were unified by my code of laws. The code was strict. Any pirate giving his own orders or disobeying those of a superior was to be beheaded on the spot. As the biggest fleet in the world, we've become immensely rich by plundering the entire Chinese south coast. As expected, the Qing dynasty officials tried to defeat us. The East India Company tried too. Even the Portuguese Navy tried. But the Red Flag fleet under Chingsha's rule went undefeated. We even took advantage of these attacks to capture imperial ships, strengthening our fleet. After 3 years of notoriety on the high seas, I finally retired in 1810 by accepting an offer of amnesty from the Chinese government. I died in 1844 at the ripe old age of 69.
I am a medium who predicted a nuclear disaster for 2023. My name is Baba Vanga, born in Bulgaria in 1911 and died in 1996. At the age of 12, I became blind in a sandstorm. I made my first predictions during World War II in Bulgaria. The accuracy of my predictions made me famous, and thousands of people came to see me to know their future. Among them, I received visits from the Tsar of Bulgaria and high-ranking officials from the Soviet Union. I was nicknamed the Nostradamus of the Balkans. I made many predictions, including the death of Stalin, the 9/11 attacks, and the election of an African-American president. For 2023, I predicted the explosion of a nuclear power plant and a major solar storm that would hit the Earth. Today, I remain an iconic figure in Bulgaria and Russia. A church has been built in my honor, as well as a statue in the city of Rupite.
Three facts the Secret Service wants to erase. Number 3. Project Acoustic Kitty. During the Cold War, the CIA attempted to turn cats into spies by equipping them with listening and transmission devices. Unfortunately, the project was abandoned after a spy cat was hit by a car during its first mission. Number 2. First Contact. In 1960, a Secret Service allegedly attempted to establish communication with extraterrestrials using a peculiar device. Unfortunately, instead of making contact with beings from another world, they accidentally contacted a children's radio station, broadcasting their secret messages to millions of children. Number 1. The faulty Universal Translator. A Secret Service purportedly developed a revolutionary translation device capable of decoding any language. However, when they tested it during a crucial diplomatic meeting, the device misinterpreted the words, transforming speeches into inappropriate jokes and creating a tense situation, screwing up the mission. Funny fact about animals in history. Number 1. Caligula, the third Roman emperor, had a remarkably strong relationship with his horse, Incitatus, to the extent that he appointed him as consul, which is the equivalent of a prime minister. Number 2. In 2014, in the town of Cormorant, Minnesota, a dog named Duke was elected as the mayor of the town. He was re-elected 4 times before passing away in 2019. According to the residents, Duke remains the best mayor the town has ever had. Number 3. During the Middle Ages, animals were sometimes judged in the same way as humans. In cases where pigs caused accidents resulting in human deaths, they were hanged as a form of punishment. Number 4. During World War II, the Project Pigeon was a mission involving placing a pigeon inside a missile with a screen aimed at the target. The pigeon was trained to peck at the target, which was supposed to correct the missile's trajectory if it deviated. Number 5. During World War II, carrier pigeons were awarded war medals for bravely accomplishing their missions.
Have you ever heard about the dumbest war in history? Number 1. The Football War. In 1969, Honduras and El Salvador engaged in a series of armed conflicts, following a qualifying match for the FIFA World Cup, resulting in deaths and destruction between the two nations. The conflict came to an end after a few days through mediation by the Organization of American States. Number 2. The War of the Marmite. In 1851, a border dispute between Denmark and Prussia led to an absurd situation. Both parties argued over who should have control over a cooking pot placed on a contested border. The quarrel was eventually resolved peacefully, but it remained famous for its trivial nature. Number 3. The War of the Bucket. In 1325, the small Italian town of Faenza and the neighboring Republic of Forli engaged in a war known as the War of the Bucket. The reason for the war was a dispute over a stolen bucket. This trivial conflict escalated into a 4-year war, resulting in numerous casualties and destruction before peace was finally reached. The greatest Mayan heroes were football players. Indeed, the concept of team sports was invented by the Mayans over 3,000 years ago. Way before Ronaldo, they played what is now considered as the grandfather of all ball games. This game was used as a weapon of war for Mesoamerican civilizations. Mayans' kings used it as a substitute for warfare or to appease diplomatic crises by playing ball. We only partially know the rules of this game. In each team, players had to cross the field to touch the enemy wall without dropping the ball using only their hips and butt to pass it, while feet and hands were forbidden. On some special fields, there were rings like this. If a player managed to pass the ball through the ring of the enemy camp, the victory was instantaneous. These matches gathered thousands of spectators, but beyond entertainment, this game also held a sacred place in religion. Winners were worshipped as blessings from the gods, and their exploits were immortalized on stelae and murals. However, some of the losers were sacrificed to ensure the prosperity of the civilization. This is the reason why BlackRock is owning everything, and yet you don't know what it is. They have Aladdin, their supercomputer created in 1990, which has since evolved into AI. Much more powerful than ChatGPT, Aladdin has managed the assets of BlackRock for 30 years, making BlackRock the largest asset manager in the world, managing trillions of dollars in assets. With disproportionate power in the financial markets, it would be used to manipulate stock prices, commodity prices, as well as currencies to influence the global economy. By creating such unfair competition in the finance market, Aladdin, pushing for a standardization of global investment, could amplify the domino effect of a potential next financial crisis. And thanks to his links with financial institutions, BlackRock also wields considerable political influence, using that influence to serve his own interests. Not to mention that they have been hiding the operation of Aladdin for almost 30 years. The weird Romans phantasm about woman gladiator. Did you know that there were also female gladiators? Ancient Rome is known for its arenas and gladiatorial combats, but during the reign of Augustus, female gladiators emerged. Emperor Nero, who had a cruel reputation, enjoyed watching women fight, and would host spectacles where he replaced the sand of the arena with crushed, semi-precious stones. These women were given only a small knife to fight against wild animals such as bears, tigers, bulls, or lions, and many of them lost their lives. Emperor Domitian forced them to fight in low-light conditions, extending the duration of the combat. While many female gladiators were slaves, some held higher ranks. Since gladiator schools were forbidden to women, they had special trainers, often their fathers who were gladiators themselves. Female gladiators often fought bare-chested like their male counterparts. Unfortunately, they were objectified and considered as prostitutes due to their nudity, despite their wealth and fame. Some famous gladiators, such as Achilles and Amazonia, even recreated the legendary battle between Achilles and the Queen of the Amazons in the arena, becoming true stars. However, by the year 200, Emperor Septimius Severus prohibited female gladiators, deeming their presence too scandalous. Spartans had the most destructive weapon of all ancient Greece, the Spartan phalanx, a legendary combat formation that left its mark on the ancient world. The Spartans, elite warriors of the city of Sparta, were known for their discipline and dedication to the art of war. The phalanx was their signature strategy. Spartans would gather in tightly packed ranks, shields overlapping, and point their long spears towards the enemy. This compact formation was indestructible on the battlefield. The Spartans could advance as a single block, creating an impenetrable wall of shields. Their coordination and discipline allowed them to break through enemy lines with relentless force. The Spartan phalanx was tested in numerous historical battles, such as the Persian Wars, or some conflicts against other Greek city-states. It allowed them to achieve decisive victories and establish their reputation as invincible warriors. The phalanx will forever remain a symbol of Sparta's military might and the martial legacy they left behind, inspiring many civilizations throughout the ages. BlackRock controls France, and yet you don't know why. They have interfered in the highest spheres of the Republic since the election of the French president, Emmanuel Macron, in 2017. Indeed, the French president has always been one of BlackRock's closest friends. In 2012, at the age of 34, Macron rubbed shoulders with the most influential economic spheres, since he became partner with the Rothschilds, the strongest family in the world. This kind of entourage made him meet Larry Fink, the actual BlackRock CEO. He then settled in the French political environment, becoming Minister of Economy in 2014. Then, helped by BlackRock, he will become a candidate for the presidential election of 2017, won it, and also that of 2022, offering him a second term. Letting BlackRock enter in France by buying back part of the French debt for $32 billion. By investing massively in France, BlackRock holds more share of the French financial market than the French state itself. At this point, BlackRock have enough money to bought all of the French financial markets 4 times. Did you know that the builders of Donald Trump's wall supported ISIS? In 2017, Donald Trump, then president, called upon a company that had supported the Islamic State to build his wall between Mexico and the United States. Indeed, the French company Lafarge Holcim had a branch in Syria. From 2013 to 2014, in order to continue their operations in the country and protect their interests, they supported the Islamic State and financed their criminal activities, providing them with over 10 million euros. During this period, ISIS carried out 37 attacks, including 3 on American soil. Accused of complicity in war crimes and crimes against humanity, Lafarge Holcim did not deny the accusations. In 2017, the company issued a statement validating these accusations, explaining that they wanted to maintain their presence in Syria and good relations in the country. The company will pay a fine of $778 million to the United States for financing a terrorist group. However, in the same year, Trump, with full knowledge of these allegations, hired Lafarge Holcim and provided them with $17 billion in funding for the construction of the wall. Thanks to this contract, and thanks to Donald Trump, Lafarge Holcim, a company connected to ISIS, has become the largest concrete company in the United States. Greatest of all Greek warriors, Achilles of Troy, was gay. In ancient Greece, male homosexuality was encouraged and did not hinder masculinity and warrior heroism. Achilles, who is Greek, seduced many women, but also men. At a very young age, his mother feared that he would leave for the Trojan War. She disguised him as a woman and hid him among the daughters of her friend Lycomedes. Achilles then went by the name Pyrrha, which means the redhead. Later, he falls deeply in love with Patroclus. Homer in the Iliad speaks of tenderness between them, but several classical Greek works, especially those of Aeschylus, are much more explicit. There is indeed a romantic relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, which in ancient Greece did not shock anyone. For the movie Troy, the director insists on saying that Patroclus is only his cousin, in order to conceal this aspect of their relationship. However, during the Trojan War, it is the death of Patroclus, killed by Hector, that drives Achilles mad with grief and prompts him to challenge and kill Hector. Having avenged his lover, Achilles cuts off his hair as a sign of mourning, and then he brings Hector's body near the tomb of Patroclus. According to Homer, after his death, the ghost of Patroclus implores that Achilles be buried beside him. The ashes of Achilles and Patroclus are eventually mixed and buried together in a golden urn. The Amazons cut off their right breast to get a better aim, but did they really exist? This tribe of warrior women who fought against the greatest Greek heroes like Theseus or Achilles appear for the first time in Homer's Iliad, probably making them a work of fiction. However, an increasing number of historians believe that the Amazons actually existed. They lived in antiquity on the shores of the Black Sea. They were indeed a warrior people composed of women. Free to have romantic affairs outside their clan, male children were killed, leaving only the girls. In the numerous proofs left by Greek artists, the Amazons wore trousers, rode horses, shot arrows, wielded spears and war axes, fought and died as heroines. According to several ancient sources, such as Diodorus, Alexander the Great encountered the Amazon queen Thalestris, who desired a child from him. According to Quintus Curtius, 16 days were devoted to their relationship. Recent discoveries of women's tombs containing weapons increasingly attest to the reality of the Amazons. Why the f*** did he cross the Alps with elephants to fight the Roman Empire? Hannibal Barca was born in 247 BC in Carthage. At a very young age and already a war leader, he managed to conquer a part of Spain. He quickly rose to the rank of general and decided to attack Rome. At the age of 29, he crossed the Alps and marched towards Rome with 40,000 men and 52 war elephants trained for combat and equipped with armor and war towers. These were formidable weapons capable of crushing any army. In the mountains, Hannibal lost many of his elephants due to the snow and difficult paths. He himself was injured in the eye and became one-eyed. However, he successfully crossed the Alps, and with his elephants he invaded several Roman provinces and won numerous battles, crushing and massacring the Roman army. The bravest elephant, Cyrus, proved to be particularly fearsome in combat. Despite being wounded with a broken tusk, he killed many enemies. However, Hannibal was unable to capture Rome. Upon returning to Carthage, he was attacked by the Romans. In a terrible naval battle, Hannibal had clay jars filled with venomous snakes thrown onto enemy ships. But it resulted in defeat, and the Romans took Carthage. Hannibal refused to surrender and took his own life by ingesting poison he had kept in a ring. He died at the age of 64. Why is Elon Musk probably going to buy Antarctica? There is in Antarctica the largest unclaimed territory in the world, the Marie-Byrd land. Kinda logic, considering it's the most dangerous desert in the world. So why would Elon want to buy it? Well, this land is perfect for simulating Martian conditions, serving as a true playground for Musk's aerospace technologies and SpaceX, allowing to study the landing conditions in Antarctica, followed by human research on isolated astronaut teams at the South Pole, everything under extreme conditions like Mars. In addition to his space ambitions, Elon Musk has an innovative project for Antarctica with one of his companies, the Boring Company. Their goal would be to develop machines capable of drilling vertically in what is called the Bentley Trench, located in Marie-Byrd land. This trench, at a depth of 2,500 meters below the sea level, would be the ideal place for deep drilling, harnessing geothermal energy and bringing up heat. This technology could be used to create oases in the midst of the icy desert, revolutionizing our understanding of survival in extreme environments. Transforming Antarctica into a true demonstrator of the feasibility of his projects is crucial for Musk and his ambition to establish a human presence on Mars.
The biggest slave rebellion in the world. Spartacus, a cavalryman in the Roman army, deserted to join the rebels fighting against Roman troops. Captured and sold as a slave, his extraordinary stature led him to become a gladiator, fighting in the arenas. However, Spartacus rebelled, and along with 70 other slaves, he escaped and attacked a convoy carrying a stockpile of weapons. Joined by numerous escaped slaves and discontented impoverished men, he became the leader of a true army established near Naples. Rome dispatched 3,000 Roman fighters against the rebels, but Spartacus managed to trap and defeat them on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. Spartacus's army spent the winter of 73 BC training, becoming increasingly organized and powerful with over 60,000 men. The Roman legions sent against him were mercilessly massacred. Nothing could stop him. At Publicola, he defeated 16,000 legionnaires, and at Modena, he routed 10,000 soldiers and killed their leader, Longinus. Crassus sent 6 new legions which suffered significant losses, but failed to halt Spartacus. However, at Salaris, with the arrival of reinforcements, the Roman army, after a fierce battle, managed to defeat Spartacus's rebels. Spartacus killed 2 centurions and wanted to fight against Crassus himself, but was struck by an arrow in the thigh and was ultimately killed.
Spartans were known for their acceptance of homosexual relationships and fought to save their lovers. In the culture of ancient Greece, homosexual relationships were encouraged between adult men and young boys in a mentor-disciple dynamic. Historians such as Plutarch and Xenophon describe these relationships as a form of education between the mentor and his student. In Sparta in particular, same-sex relationships were highly encouraged, and historical sources attest to a general acceptance of homosexuality, considering it as a sign of virility. According to German historian Wolfgang Schuler, homosexual relationships were integral to Spartan and Cretan societies. For soldiers, homosexual relationships were highly regarded, especially in Sparta and Thebes, as they reinforced the cohesion of the troops. The Spartan soldier fought not only for himself, but also for his lover. The sacred band of Thebes, created in 378 BC by Epaminondas or Gorgidas, was an elite military unit composed of 150 pairs of lovers. It played a crucial role in Thebes' victory at the Battle of Leuctra against Sparta in 371 BC. The sacred band achieved numerous victories over a period of 30 years before being defeated by Alexander the Great's army. Out of the 300 soldiers who formed the band, 254 were killed. A collective tomb was erected at the site of the battle. Thus, in both Thebes and Sparta, homosexual relationships among soldiers were seen as signs of masculinity and valor in combat. When you are a member of the most feared warrior class in the world, where the tongue is as sharp as the sword and feared as much as the spear, they don't just call you a warrior, they call you a Spartan. When King Xerxes asked the Spartans to surrender and lay down their weapons, they replied, "Come and take them." When he said that the Persian arrows would block out the sun, they answered, "We will fight in the shade." The Spartan men asked the Queen of Sparta why their wives were this free, and she replied that only Spartan women gave birth to true men. When King Philip of Macedonia sent a message to the Spartans threatening to destroy their farms and enslave their people, the Spartans simply replied, "If you do, we will destroy your farms and enslave your people." To describe the Spartan mentality further, Plutarch said, "Spartans don't ask how many they are, but where they are."
Did you know that the moon you contemplate every evening could be hollow? Sounds crazy, right? But let me explain. In the 1970s, two Soviet scientists, U.S.C. and Sherbakov, put forward this wild theory. They believed that the moon might be some kind of hollow planet created by beings far more technologically advanced than us. They based their idea on anomalies that scientists cannot explain. The moon is far too large, oddly old, and surprisingly light. Its rocks are composed of minerals not found anywhere else in our solar system. Intriguing, isn't it? And you know what? When the Apollo 12 mission hit the lunar surface with the equivalent of a ton of TNT, seismometers recorded strange activity. The moon rang like a bell for over an hour, and that's not all. The peculiar synchronicity of the moon with the sun remains unexplained. They both set at the same point during the equinox, opposite at the solstice, as if everything were perfectly aligned. The chances of this happening by random are infinitesimal. Moreover, the moon's craters are oddly shallow compared to the force of the impacts, and their bottoms are flat, as if they hit a sturdy hidden shell below, not to mention the photos taken during Apollo missions that seem to show artificial structures. So, what's the truth? Is the moon fake? June 6, 1944. We received the order to land at Omaha Beach in Normandy. We crossed the English Channel packed in landing crafts. It was nighttime and we were scared. I was part of the 1st Infantry Division, known as the Big Red One, an experienced unit. However, we also had a regiment from the 29th Division, which had never seen combat before. The Germans had placed numerous obstacles on the beach: mines, machine guns, and cannons. They were also firing from the bunkers atop the beach. In addition to the enemy fire, the sea was rough. Almost all the amphibious tanks we landed with sank, and we suffered heavy losses. My comrades were falling all around me. But General Bradley, who was overseeing the operation offshore, gave us the order to press on. With my comrades, we stormed the enemy defenses, and at a great cost in lives, managed to flank and overwhelm the German positions. By late afternoon, victory was achieved, and all German positions had been captured. The landing at Omaha Beach cost the lives of 4,700 of my comrades, and the beach earned the nickname Bloody Omaha.
Genghis Khan, the greatest conqueror of all time. In the 12th century, the Mongol Empire founded by Genghis Khan was 5 times larger than the Roman Empire. Nothing could stop it. At the age of 9, his father is assassinated. As an adolescent, he kills his half-brother who refuses to share his fish with him. Then he raises an army initially composed of peasants, which becomes increasingly formidable. During his conquests, Genghis Khan is said to have killed nearly 10% of the world's population at that time, between 35 and 60 million people. Genghis Khan had a harem of 44 wives, but he actually had over 500 concubines from the various conquered countries and more than 120 children. He allowed the conquered peoples to retain their customs and religion, however he was ruthless. To avenge his father's death, he annihilates the Tatar people and orders the execution of all men taller than the wheel of his chariot. In 1221, in a single day, he massacres the entire population of the city of Nishapur, totaling over 1 million people because they killed his daughter's husband, and she is angered. After the Battle of Khalkha in Russia, Genghis Khan eats on the bodies of his dying enemies. He died while hunting, falling from his horse. To keep the location of his burial site a secret, all the people who participated in his funeral are killed, totaling over 2,000 individuals. His tomb has never been found. I'm sorry, but is this f***ing curse of Tutankhamun real? In 1922, Howard Carter, an English archaeologist, made the greatest historical discovery of the 20th century. Together with his partner, the Earl of Carnarvon, and his team of archaeologists, they unearthed the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. This tomb, remained untouched and inviolate for over 3,000 years, contains an invaluable treasure. Hundreds of objects were stacked in the chamber: gold, vases, furniture, statuettes, chariots adorned with gold and precious stones. 2 statues of the pharaoh guarded a sealed door, revealing the completely intact burial chamber of Tutankhamun. Inside rested the pharaoh in his opulent sarcophagus, wearing his golden mask. Men were amazed, and the whole world was fascinated by this incredible discovery. However, Carter and his men had ignored the warning engraved at the tomb's entrance. Death will slay with his wings whoever disturbs the peace of the pharaoh. 6 weeks later, Lord Carnarvon died suddenly from a mysterious fever. In the following months, deaths continued to occur. In total, 27 members of the team died under strange circumstances. Diseases, accidents, and sudden deaths gradually befell all those who dared to desecrate Tutankhamun's tomb. In 1939, Howard Carter himself passed away. He would be the final victim of the curse of Tutankhamun, a mysterious creature of the abyss that has terrified sailors for over 500 years. The largest monster of the sea, already described in the 13th century in the Icelandic saga, speaks of a creature capable of swallowing men, boats, and even whales. Boats are attacked and engulfed, sailors drowned and sometimes devoured. The Kraken was described by Eric Pontoppidan in the 18th century. He explains that it is a gigantic octopus whose arms can catch the largest ships. It is so big that it is sometimes mistaken for islands. Many authors have talked about the Kraken. In 1861, the French ship Alecton was attacked by a 6-meter-long octopus in the Atlantic. Its captain tried to kill it with harpoons and gunshots, but the creature managed to escape. Numerous naval officers today claim to have encountered the Kraken. It is now certain that giant-sized octopuses or squids hide in the oceans. A team of Japanese scientists in 2006 and a North American channel in 2012 were able to film it. Males measure about 10 meters long and females 14 meters. Its eye, the largest in the animal kingdom, can measure up to 30 centimeters in diameter, but the Kraken prefers to hide in the depths of the ocean.
Have you ever heard about the Roman emperor who burned his own city? His name was Nero, and he is probably the most bloodthirsty emperor who ever lived. He didn't care about politics. He didn't care about his people. He just spent his nights in banquets and debauchery. For example, this guy kinda loved the theater. So he would go on stage and make the audience watch him for hours and applaud him. His excess of love for entertainment has emptied the coffers of the state. But anyone who opposed him was poisoned or executed. Indeed, the same day his mother criticized his conduct, he had her murdered. He also drives away his wife, Octavia, and has her assassinated to marry his mistress, Poppaea. However, soon after, she becomes pregnant and dies from a kick to the belly by Nero. Many sources claim that he ordered the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. After the fire, Nero rebuilds Rome and renames it Neropolis in a monumental style, with an immense palace for himself. To divert suspicions, he accuses the Christians and orders them to be crucified or burned alive. But the rebellious generals forced him to flee, shortly after he was found stabbed in the throat.
The Queen of the Amazons cut off her right breast to get a better aim. But did she really exist? The Amazons were an exclusively female and fierce warrior people, as described by numerous authors such as Diodorus of Sicily and Quintus. Their most important queen was named Thalestris. Her existence is attested by many authors, and she is not a mythical queen, but had a liaison with Alexander the Great. Thalestris was beautiful and a powerful and respected queen. Along with her people, she commanded a formidable army of women on horseback skilled in archery and not hesitating to attack men. Thalestris desired to have a daughter with Alexander the Great, so she personally went to him accompanied by 300 Amazons. Seduced by her, he granted her 16 nights of love. According to researchers and archaeologists, the Amazons were Scythian warriors. They were trained in combat from a young age and allowed no men in their tribe. They were skilled horsewomen living constantly outdoors and enjoying complete sexual freedom. Numerous tombs from the 5th century BC have been discovered, containing women buried with weapons and horses. Some bore characteristic war wounds, and the youngest was just 13 years old. However, to this day, no tomb of an Amazon queen has been discovered. The conqueror Vladimir Putin is on the verge of controlling the world. He doesn't want to settle for reclaiming lost territories after the fall of the USSR, such as Serbia or Ukraine. He wants more. In fact, he is claiming a territory of 1.2 million square kilometers in the Arctic Circle, where 30% of the world's oil reserves are located. Currently, the Russian government is building military bases and infrastructure, defining the Arctic as a priority zone. But that's not all. In addition to controlling Arctic resources, he already has a presence in Africa. I will go back a step to just a few years ago. In 2015, he intervened in Syria and then set his sights on the conquest of Africa. With the help of the Wagner mercenary group, Putin has managed to take control of a significant portion of the African continent by providing military aid to countries in conflict and subsequently establishing a foothold there. They offer weapons in exchange for access to mines and oil fields. Lobai Invest holds the extraction contract, and drilling equipment is provided by Broker Expert, both companies belonging to Prigozhin's inner circle, the head of Wagner. Today, the Russians have military bases in more than 20 African countries. Putin's ambition is immense, an empire capable of controlling the world, and he is on the verge of achieving it. The Nazi master interrogator who killed them with kindness, Hans Scharf, was a top Nazi interrogator during World War II, whose techniques didn't really go hand in hand with the Nazi ideology. He was opposed to torture and inflicting cruelty on war prisoners, but instead relied on kindness. His tactics included nature walks with prisoners, sharing his wife's delicious baked goods and drinking beers together. He even let one American prisoner take a German plane for a test run. When he befriended them, he would start playing his mind games by asking a question he already knew the answer to, informing the prisoner that he already knew everything about him, but his superiors had given instruction that the prisoner himself had to say it. Scharf continued asking questions that he would himself provide the answers for, until he finally reached the one thing he didn't know. The prisoners couldn't help but spill the beans, assuming he already knew it anyways. His techniques were so effective that they are still taught in U.S. military schools. The strongest army of the 19th century. Napoleon is the greatest emperor of France, having conquered a large part of Europe before his violent downfall. In the early 19th century, Napoleon Bonaparte ruled France and embarked on incredible wars and conquests. Emperor Napoleon sought to expand his empire and conquer the world. With his army, he first attacked Italy and annexed several provinces. He also conquered Spain. Nothing could stop him. Then, he attacked Egypt. The Battle of the Pyramids was fierce against the Egyptian army led by Murad Bey, consisting of over 10,000 cavalry and 30,000 soldiers. After a tough fight, Napoleon triumphed and reached Cairo. Napoleon then crossed the Alps and fought against the Austrians and their Russian allies. The Battle of Austerlitz in 1805 was a crushing victory. Napoleon was at the height of his power, being the master of the emperors of Russia and Austria. But those victories were not enough for Napoleon. He now wanted to conquer all of Russia and set off with his army. In 1812, he took Moscow. However, the Russians launched a counter-offensive, and Napoleon made the mistake of attacking in winter. The cold and diseases killed his soldiers, and the Russian army inflicted heavy losses on them. They had to retreat in the snow. In 1815, in Belgium at Waterloo, Napoleon faced the Germans and the British. It was an exceptionally deadly battle, resulting in 9,500 French casualties. It was a terrible defeat. After those two failures, Napoleon's power came to an end, and he had to abdicate. The samurai were the greatest swordsmen in history, thanks to the most famous sword in the world, the katana. Crafted from multiple layers of steel, the katana was both sharp and incredibly durable, symbolizing Japanese craftsmanship at its finest. They used distinctive combat techniques like the art of ight, a quick-draw sword method allowing them to strike in a single fluid movement. But that's not all. These elite warriors of medieval Japan lived under a strict code called Bushido. According to this code, the katana wasn't just a weapon, but the extension of the samurai's soul. Distinguished by their mastery of martial arts and their unequaled devotion to their lord, they were the well-paid retainers of the daimyo, the great feudal landholders, which is strangely similar to the Western Middle Ages. They lived by strict moral principles, placing honor and loyalty above anything. They also believed in life after death, and preferred to die with dignity on the battlefield rather than surrender. What mysteries lie within the secret tunnels and hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx? In 1987, scientists from the University of Tokyo conducted an electromagnetic survey of the Pyramid of Khufu and the Sphinx, which revealed the existence of several tunnels and cavities beneath Giza. However, no one knows where they lead. What do they contain? Who built them? And what are they used for? The researchers also found several 2 to 3 meter cavities in the ground beneath the Sphinx, as well as the probable entrance to a tunnel in front of its paws. Archaeologists believe that there is likely a network of galleries connecting several chambers beneath the Sphinx. The recent discovery of an immense cavity as large as an airplane beneath the nearby Great Pyramid further deepens the mystery. The Sphinx would thus hide secret underground chambers and tunnels connecting it to the Great Pyramid. However, to this day, no official excavation has been carried out. Built around 2500 BC, its exact purpose remains unknown, making it a mysterious monument with many secrets. What do you think could be hidden underneath? The most atrocious torture was practiced by the Vikings, and it's not a legend. The blood eagle really existed. The blood eagle is a form of ritualized execution, a sacrifice to the god Odin. The victim dies in excruciating pain. The victim is tied down, and the shape of an eagle is carved on their back. Then, the ribs along the spine are detached. The ribs are then pulled out to the sides to make it look like wings, while the victim is still alive. Next, the lungs are taken out and placed on the wings. The blood eagle torment was reserved for nobles and enemies who killed a Viking in a shameful way. It was a revenge to regain lost honor. For example, the sons of Ragnar, who avenged their father's death, captured the King of England, Iella, and subjected him to the blood eagle torture. This horrifying torture is described in several medieval manuscripts and depicted in Viking representations, such as the Stora Hammar's stone on the island of Gotland, Sweden. The Viking warriors were indeed the most formidable in history.
The dancing plague that killed hundreds of people. In July 1518, a woman decided to step into the streets and started shaking and gyrating her body uncontrollably. As strange as it may sound, not only did the woman not stop, but other people started to join in. Key eyewitnesses reported that the dancing continued all day and all night, with more people joining every day. And by August of that same year, there were 400 people dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Local doctors at the time thought that it was a fever and believed that the dancing was the body's natural cure for it, so they built stages for it and brought in professional dancers and background music to add to the madness. Soon, people started dropping from exhaustion, and it's believed that up to 100 people lost their lives to this dance. Even though it was officially reported that it ended in September of that year, legend has it that the remaining people who couldn't stop dancing were rounded up to the top of a mountain where they danced until they too perished. Even though this historic event was well documented, till this day, no one knows what caused.
If you eat a banana every...
This World Trade Center deal was super sketchy. Well, you see, just 2 months before 9/11, the World Trade Center was taken private by a man named Larry Silverstein, who ate breakfast on the 91st floor of the North Tower every morning except the day of the tragedy, citing an emergency hospital appointment. What's more fascinating is that he also took out an insurance plan on the entire building that just so happened to cover terrorism. When the dust settled, Larry was awarded a total of $4.5 billion. And even though it can't be proven that this could have been the largest insurance fraud in history, everyone's saying that.
Legends, speculation, and conspiracies that surround the Great Pyramids of Egypt have circulated for thousands of years. Since the dawn of modern civilization, many question the nature of the monuments, why they were really built, who built them, and what secrets they keep hidden inside the limestone. But what if I told you there was another, bigger mystery surrounding the greatest pyramid of them all? And what if I told you the answer to all of that was once placed right at the very top of the Great Pyramid of Giza? Stolen or lost in time, the mystery of the Egyptian capstone has mystified researchers, historians, and archaeologists for decades. And today, we're diving into where it could possibly be. Hold on tight. Cicada 3301. On January 4th, 2012, an unknown user posted a message on the dark web claiming to be looking for the brightest and most intelligent people in the world. In order to determine if the participants were the right fit, they issued a series of puzzles on the 4th of January every year from 2012 to 2014. The puzzles focused heavily on data security, cryptography, steganography, and internet anonymity. To normal people, it would have been impossible to solve. Until this day, the third puzzle is yet to be solved. Many have speculated that the puzzles are a recruitment tool for the NSA, CIA, or MI6, or even a shadow organization. While others claim to have information that solving it was a ticket to an alternate reality game. But strangely enough, ever since the winners won, no one has heard from them, leading many to wonder.
The mystery of Area 51 is finally revealed. This theory is spine-chilling, so hold on tight. Area 51 is a place of exchange and experimentation with aliens. It is the most secretive place on Earth for this reason. The U.S. government is said to be in contact with aliens to conduct human exchanges for scientific experiments. When UFOs crash on Earth, they undergo numerous scientific experiments by the U.S. government. However, the alien civilizations are strongly opposed to this principle. The U.S. government proposed to provide aliens with children and adults every year in order to establish a pact. Both parties reached an agreement, and that's why the numerous Americans who disappear each year end up in Area 51 to be sent to other planets for experiments.
Is there a chamber in the Great Pyramid of Giza that is being hidden from us? For many years, people who claim to have explored the Pyramid of Giza have claimed that they came across a hidden chamber deep inside the pyramid. However, all these were not confirmed until recently, when archaeologists uncovered a mysterious room. Well, you see, the mystery actually begins here, because even though this secret room has been revealed, the contents have been classified, with some archaeologists leaking that there were ancient scrolls within the room, with extraterrestrial inscriptions and glyphs, containing information about advanced technology, time travel, and even alien biology, with some even claiming that the reason why all these were kept secret was because it would turn everything we know about human history upside down. Even though many people have claimed to have seen it, many people still ask the question, could this be proof that the Loch Ness Monster really lived? For the last 1,500 years, tales of the Loch Ness Monster have circulated. However, there has never been any real evidence of its existence. Some people believe that it was a plesiosaurus that survived the cataclysm that killed the dinosaurs, while others thought it was just a hoax. But the common theory was that the plesiosaurus could only survive in salt water. It wouldn't survive in the fresh water of the Loch Ness. But was that the case? Well, you see, in July of 2022, the bones of a plesiosaurus was found in the ancient Moroccan River. And you might be wondering, what's the big deal? But the Moroccan River contains fresh water. So is this proof that a plesiosaurus could have survived in the waters of the Loch Ness? And who is the real Jesus? If you look back at historical text, there are two versions of Jesus, which everyone has heard of. The Jesus in Christianity and the Jesus in Islam. But what is the difference? Well, you see, unlike the Jesus in Christianity, who was the Son of God, sent to earth to die for the sins of man, the Jesus in Islam was said to have actually been a faithful Muslim. In fact, according to the Islamic faith, during the end times, Jesus will return to earth near a mosque in Damascus, and during this time he will attempt to establish Sharia law throughout the entire earth, and preach about how everyone should repent and become Muslim as he is. This version of Jesus is very different, and when compared, it seems to be a complete opposite of the original Jesus Christ in the Bible. Even though Bible scholars are warning that this version of Jesus could actually be part of the Antichrist deception prophesied in the Bible, many people are still wondering.
3 normal things but forbidden in North Korea. Number 3, choosing your hairstyle. For both men and women, there are a specific number of regulated hairstyles to abide by. In total, men have a choice of 10 different styles, while women have 18 options. For example, some hairstyles are reserved for married women, while others are for unmarried individuals. Number 2, leaving North Korea. Regardless of the reason, North Koreans are not allowed to leave their country without official authorization. 1 million guards monitor the borders on a daily basis. Number 1, accessing the internet. Any respectable dictator knows that in order to effectively maintain control over a population, it is necessary to prevent them from seeing what is happening elsewhere in the world. Thus, in North Korea, hardly anyone has the right to access the internet. I'm not even ready to imagine the craziness we're in right now. Antarctica is the most mysterious continent in the world. A new theory is so crazy that it could completely change your perception of the Earth. According to this theory, Antarctica is not just a massive ice continent, but rather an enormous ice wall that surrounds all the continents. In 1992, a new world map was created, the Gleason map, which shows Antarctica encircling all our continents. This theory goes even further. Some believe that if we manage to cross this wall, we will encounter numerous other continents, deliberately hidden from us by governments. We're all actually already dead, but no one knows it. I'm going to tell you this incredible theory, but first, subscribe. When we die, our brain continues to live for 7 minutes and replays all the most beautiful moments of our life, like in a dream. Time passes more slowly in real life, which can explain why these 7 minutes seem like an eternity. The greatest scientists have stated that when we will find the God particle, our existence could end in just 1 day. And in 2012, we found it. Since 2012, the world has changed in a negative way. And if you feel like you're living a dream every day, it would confirm the theory that, have you ever experienced déjà vu? If you've ever had the feeling of having lived a moment before, you've already experienced déjà vu. It's an inexplicable phenomenon. And what if you had actually already lived that moment? The theory put forward suggests that our consciousness has already lived thousands of different lives before. And when we die, the bright light we see at the end of the tunnel is actually a form of rebirth into the world, as a baby. It is said that between the ages of 1 and 3, memories are being erased. That's why we don't remember anything at that age. And sometimes, not all memories are erased properly. That's why we can have this déjà vu sensation, which is actually a remnant of memories from our past life. The déjà vu you experience would therefore be truly real. 3 most formidable and dangerous dog breeds that you should never own. Hold on tight because what you're about to discover is simply incredible. The third, the pit bull. This dog is unanimously recognized as one of the most formidable creatures in the canine world. Imagine that in the United States between 2005 and 2014, no fewer than 203 people lost their lives due to a pit bull attack. In second place, the German Shepherd. This fascinating dog can reach an impressive weight of 30 to 45 kilograms. Endowed with extraordinary intelligence, a confident spirit, and extreme vigilance, the German Shepherd is a true legend for law enforcement. The #1 dog on our list of the most dangerous breeds, the Rottweiler. Imagine for a moment this behemoth weighing up to 60 kilograms. These animals are truly pure muscle mountains. With a genetic predisposition for guarding and protecting herds, Rottweilers have acquired a formidable reputation with their imposing presence. To discover the most incredible anecdotes of our world, subscribe without further delay. New deadly pandemic is at our doorstep. Get ready to be shocked. The new threat comes in the form of an unknown virus, more lethal and more contagious than anything we have experienced before. If confirmed, we could potentially face another period of global confinement, or possibly something even worse. The Director General of the World Health Organization has urged countries worldwide to prepare for the next pandemic, warning that future health emergencies could be even more severe than the COVID-19 pandemic. During a meeting at the World Health Organization in Geneva, he stated that COVID still poses a threat, but it is not the only one we might face. He also emphasized the threat of another emerging variant that could lead to new waves of the disease and deaths, as well as another virus with an even higher potential for mortality. This announcement is indeed alarming, especially after years of restrictions. One thing is certain, we will need to demonstrate resilience in the years to come. Ultra-confidential document from the CIA explains how the end of the world will happen. It's called The Story of Adam and Eve, and everyone is starting to talk about it now. The scariest part is that it is completely logical and makes complete sense. It explains that the poles, specifically the North Pole and South Pole, shift every 12,000 to 15,000 years. This causes a giant apocalypse, massive earthquakes, and a huge tsunami. And once the apocalypse happens, we revert back to prehistoric times, the Stone Age. The first humans of our civilization appeared 10,000 years ago. So if you think about it, being in 2023 today, we are now at around 13,000 years, and we are already witnessing signs of the end of the world, such as climate change, pandemics, and the threat of a third world war. The book also states that we are the 6th civilization to emerge from the apocalypse. We reach a certain stage in life, and then everything resets. This is probably what happened to Atlantis, a mysterious Greek island that is now submerged underwater. It would make sense for an island inhabited by an ancient civilization to be swallowed by the waters. CIA doesn't want you to know that this island exists. It's called Diego Garcia, and it is located in the Indian Ocean. In 2008, Time magazine published an article about the island of Diego Garcia, stating that it is where the CIA takes all its detainees to torture them. But they also believe that the CIA conducts experiments beneath this island. Have you heard about the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 that disappeared? In reality, this flight may not have vanished. It landed there, and they abducted the people from the plane and subjected them to torture. The reason we might think this is because there was an IBM employee on the plane who posted a photo 10 days after the plane's disappearance. The photo showed what looked like some sort of experimental room. And if you look at the geographic coordinates of the photo, it matches this island.
You would not have survived this. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the most catastrophic in history, occurred in 1986 when Reactor 4 exploded, unleashing 400 times the radiation of the Hiroshima bomb. Fallout swept across Europe, necessitating the evacuation of 350,000 people. Today, a haunting exclusion zone remains, uninhabitable for another 20,000 years. It stands as a grim reminder of our perilous dabbling with nuclear power. In our rush for more energy, could we see another Chernobyl? Are we ready to pay that price? Aliens exist, and they're in Area 51. That's what countless conspiracy theorists have claimed for years. Hidden deep within Nevada's barren landscape, this infamous military base is shrouded in mystery and secrecy. Tales of recovered extraterrestrial crafts, secret experiments, reverse engineering alien technology, and even captured alien beings circulate wildly. If any of this is true, it could fundamentally shift our understanding of life and technology as we know it. Do you think the government hiding aliens from us? Anonymous is watching you. You may not know them, but they know you. They're a decentralized network of activists and hacktivists, hidden behind the iconic Guy Fawkes masks. Their mission is to target political, corporate, and religious corruption worldwide. They've taken down government websites and wreaked havoc on major corporations. They've disrupted the Church of Scientology and declared war on ISIS. Their reach and capabilities are growing every day, proving no one is safe from their digital vendetta. Do you know what they have planned next?
The three most feared animals of all time. Coming in at number 3, we have the pterodactyl, an imposing flying reptile with a wingspan equivalent to a small bus, poised to attack from the sky. At number 2, we find the Tyrannosaurus rex. This beast stood as tall as a 2-story house and had gigantic teeth. It's the epitome of pure terror. But the top spot belongs to the megalodon. This gigantic shark, about the size of 3 city buses lined up end to end, dwarfed the modern great white and ruled the seas. Do you think any are still alive today?
2 companies control the world, shareholders. 3 most protected people on the planet. The last one will surprise you. Number 3, the Pope. His home, Vatican City, is one of the safest countries in the world. He travels in a bulletproof vehicle with an unobstructed view, and guards accompany him everywhere. The Vatican also has a small army of soldiers to protect the Pope. Number 2 is Kim Jong-un. With many enemies, it's not surprising that a whopping $20 million is spent annually on his protection. He travels in an armored limousine, shielded at all times by the 100,000-strong Supreme Guard. Number 1 is not a president or a prime minister, but a king. King Charles III. The British monarch's security service costs taxpayers approximately £27 million a year. With over 180 SAS officers assigned to his protection, his safety is taken very seriously. The 3 richest people throughout history, and you don't know who they are. The last one will shock you. Number 3, Andrew Carnegie, a Scottish-American industrialist who revolutionized the American steel industry in the late 19th century, boasting a net worth of around $310 billion. His wealth funded libraries, schools, and universities that still stand today. Number 2, John D. Rockefeller, an American oil magnate who founded Standard Oil, a monopoly that controlled 90% of U.S. oil refineries at its peak. His estimated peak net worth is around $400 billion. At number 1, Mansa Musa. Mansa was the ruler of the West African Mali Empire in the 14th century, with a net worth estimated to be over $1 trillion. Mansa Musa was so rich that when he was in Egypt, he spent and gave away so much gold that it caused a currency crisis, devaluing gold for the next 12 years. 3 largest robberies. You won't believe the amount stolen. Number 3, the Banco Central burglary in Fortaleza, Brazil in 2005. Regarded as one of the world's greatest heists, a gang of thieves dug a 256-foot tunnel leading to the bank's vault, making away with $70 million. Number 2, the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company burglary in 2015, London. A group of elderly thieves drilled into the vault over an Easter weekend, making off with valuables worth an estimated $200 million. But the grandest heist of them all is at number 1, the Bialystok pipeline siphoning in Russia. It was not a conventional heist, as the crime group illegally siphoned oil from the Russia-Asia pipeline over a period of 4 years. The operation was worth around $2 billion in stolen oil. Top 3 scammers of all time, you won't believe how much they stole. Number 3, Charles Ponzi. He's the man behind the infamous Ponzi scheme, promising high returns and duping thousands of people in the early 20th century. The scheme brought him $20 million before its collapse. Number 2, Richard Dowsey and Janamjot Sodhi. This duo masterminded a massive call center fraud in India targeting U.S. citizens. They impersonated the IRS and immigration officials and scared people into paying non-existent fines. They raked in an estimated $300 million. But the largest by far is at number 1, Bernie Madoff. A respected figure in the finance world, he used his position to run the largest Ponzi scheme in history, swindling investors out of an astonishing $65 billion. 3 largest cyber heists of all time. Number 1 will shock you. Number 3, the Bangladesh bank heist. In 2016, hackers used the SWIFT banking network to initiate fraudulent transfers from Bangladesh Bank, successfully stealing $81 million. Number 2, the Epsilon breach. In 2011, hackers gained access to Epsilon's huge database of email addresses, which they used for targeted phishing attacks, profiting around $225 million. However, in top place at number 1, the Mt. Gox hack. In 2014, hackers infiltrated Mt. Gox, a Tokyo-based Bitcoin exchange, exploiting a weakness in the exchange's security. This allowed them to drain 850,000 Bitcoins from the exchange. At the time, the theft was worth $460 million, but with the surge in Bitcoin's value, that stolen fortune would now be worth $25 billion. The 3 most famous, 3 largest nuclear bombs ever created. Number 1 will shock you. Number 3, the Mk-36 bomb, constructed by the U.S. in the 1950s, measuring about 3.9 meters in length, with a maximum yield of 10 megatons. It could cause total devastation within a radius of approximately 16 kilometers, large enough to wipe out all of New York City. Number 2, the B-41 nuclear bomb, also built by the U.S. It's 4.5 meters long and with a maximum yield of 25 megatons, its blast radius was enough to annihilate an area the size of Belgium. But the largest is at number 1, the Tsar Bomba, detonated by the Soviet Union in 1961. This monstrous device, measuring 8 meters long, had an estimated yield of 50 megatons, causing the most powerful man-made explosion ever. Its fireball alone was about 8 kilometers in diameter, and it could cause third-degree burns in an area the size of Israel. 3 richest world leaders. Number 1 will shock you. Number 3, Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the president of the UAE and the emir of Abu Dhabi. His net worth, derived from his family's vast oil wealth, is estimated to be around $15 billion. He owns a collection of supercars, a $600 million yacht, and real estate globally. Number 2, Hassan al-Bolkiah, the Sultan of Brunei, who boasts a net worth of around $20 billion thanks to the petroleum and natural gas fields in his small country. He owns more than 600 Rolls-Royce cars, and his residential palace, Istana Nurul Iman, is the world's largest residential palace. However, the richest of them all at number 1, Vladimir Putin. Putin's net worth is estimated to be as high as $300 billion. He owns multiple luxury residences, a fleet of private jets, and multiple yachts worth billions of dollars. Titanic was destined to sink, and here's why. All the richest people in the world in 1912 were supposed to be on the Titanic. There were the Rothschilds and their lackeys, and so on. There was also a man called Mr. Astor. He was the richest man in America at the time. He owned 40% of all the mortgages in America. The only problem was that Mr. Astor was very powerful, and he opposed the creation of the central bank. However, the Rothschilds wanted to make a central bank, but Mr. Astor was too important to kill. How did they do it? All the Rothschilds got onto the boat, and in the last few seconds, they all got off. The ship sank. The richest man in America died on the Titanic. All the politicians he was sitting next to, and all the money they had evaporated. As for the Rothschilds, the following year in 1913, they created the Federal Reserve Bank with no one to object. Have you ever experienced déjà vu? If you've ever had the feeling of having lived a moment before, you've already experienced déjà vu. It's an inexplicable phenomenon. And what if you had actually already lived that moment? The theory put forward suggests that our consciousness has already lived thousands of different lives before, and when we die, the bright light we see at the end of the tunnel is actually a form of rebirth into the world, as a baby. It is said that between the ages of 1 and 3, memories are being erased. That's why we don't remember anything at that age. And sometimes, not all memories are erased properly. That's why we can have this déjà vu sensation, which is actually a remnant of memories from our past life. The déjà vu you experience would therefore be truly real. The 3 most dangerous pets you should never own. Number 1 will shock you. Number 3, the monkey. These seemingly cute and harmless primates can be very dangerous. They are twice as strong as an adult male, unpredictable, and can transmit diseases like hepatitis and HIV. Number 2, dogs. Dogs can be highly aggressive and dangerous, particularly certain breeds, such as Rottweilers, Pit Bulls, and German Shepherds. Dogs can also carry and transmit rabies, a deadly virus that causes tens of thousands of deaths worldwide annually. These animals, though frequently loving and loyal, can be dangerous and life-threatening. However, at number 1, the tiger. Tigers are wild animals and weigh up to 300 kilos. Tigers have been known to attack their owners. Their innate predatory instincts and sheer strength make them a pet you should never own.